Hello everyone, I wanted to look at chord pads and chord assistant in Cubase. Now, I've actually done this video a few times and each time I end up spending much longer than I want to on the video. I want to keep this really short, so if there's anything I miss that you see in the menus we look at, by all means leave a comment and we'll go through it. But I want to just get through what I think is important for creating songs and coming up with ideas really quickly. Chord pads and chord assistants are great for if you haven't composed many songs and you're not sure what chord sequences or chords work well together to compose, or you play guitar but you want to voice instruments for keyboards, or you play keyboard and you want to hear how it would sound the same chord voiced for a guitar. What I mean by that is an A minor chord will still be an A minor chord on the guitar and it will sound the same, but they take those three notes, and just because the way the instruments are built, they stack them slightly differently. So instead of A, C and E, on the A minor chord on a guitar would be A, E, A, C and E, but it sounds the same, but it gives a different element to your composition if you voice it for a guitar. But I'll show you that actually by hearing it. I think would be the best thing. So let's crack on with this. What I'm going to do is go to my right zone. Remember, you got the shortcuts, Control Alt R for the right zone if you want to use that. I'm going to choose Hallian Sonic, drag it over onto this left area. It's on piano, mellow grand. I'm going to go with that. So I've got now, I'm going to come off right zone. I've got now Hallian Sonic working, and this is a piano. So I've got a piano. The reason I've set up a instrument lane is because whatever we work in chords, we've got to audition it against something. The chords have got to be triggered. It's got to trigger an instrument so we can hear them. So if you find you're using chord pads and you can't hear anything, the chances are you may not have made an instrument, or maybe you haven't highlighted, so clicked on this lane here so it's highlighted. So Cubase will then know this is the instrument we're going to use. Okay, to get to chord pads, it's using this bottom zone, the lower zone. The reason I called it a bottom zone there is because the shortcut for me to remember that is Control Alt B, brings up the lower zone. You've got it up here and it is called the lower zone, but I call it bottom just so I can remember. Control Alt B, it's just my way of remembering that. Okay, and then if we look at what we've got along here in the drop down menus, this menu, sorry, along the bottom, is chord pads. That's what we're going to use. And now I can click on any of these and we can hear these because I've got this highlighted up here. Okay, now the simplest thing you could possibly do with chord pads are drag them in and you can start composing a song in seconds. The other thing you can do, if we click on one pad in, say, this C chord, on the left hand side you completely change the chord. So in this little appears here, this triangle, you click on him, choose the chord you want. You can go major, minor, diminished, suspended, augmented, sevenths, flat nines, sharp nines. It gives you limitless chords, which is cool. And then these along the right hand side here are what's in the bass. So you could have a C chord, C major, and a G in the bass. So that's a C chord, and then the left hand would be playing a G. And you can see it looks like this, C/G. So that defines the chord you're going to use. So I'm just going to take that off, so it's just a standard C. Now, on the right hand of the chord, the pad itself, can you hear when I play those? What that's doing is playing the same, it's a C chord, but it's stacking those, the C, E and G, or you see here when I go, let me go to the first one. Can you see here, that chord it's playing? Stacking them in different orders, so it's always the same three chords, but as it goes up the keyboard we call those inversions. So that can be really handy. So say you've written one chord line, but you want the next underneath, you want the strings to be doing the same chord but voiced in a different inversion. That's a great tool for that, and then you can end up with some really big sounding chords which are great. Then you've got the middle at the bottom. These just add to your complexity, I suppose we could call it, of the chord. So instead of a C, you might want a C9. So that's with an added ninth in there, and that sounds great. Or a C major 7. And you can get really jazzy chords as you go along here. So I think of that as how complicated the chord is. They call it tensions, so the tension of the chord, but it's worth experimenting with that. And again, you can simply drag these in, or if you've got a MIDI keyboard set up, as long as you're triggering the keyboard in this area here, this purple area here, you can hit record on Cubase and play these chords in. Now, that's great. So that's the pads. What I find really useful in Cubase, you see this here, this is your chord assistant. Now, there's two menus you get with this. One's the proximity and one's the circle of fifths. I'm going to show you both really quickly. But you see here I've got a slight issue in the fact I've got no chords here. I want chords to show up here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to C, because I'm going to base my composition around C at the moment. I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to use C as origin for chord assistant. So that was right clicking on this pad, and there we go. So now all what happens here in the proximity of the chord, this is our root chord, so this is what we're basing everything around, and these are related to it, and as you go further away I suppose they become more distant relations. So not that they don't sound great together, some of them. So here you go, C to A minor is relative major and minor, and that sounds great, and diminished chord there. But what you can do with these, so once you start experimenting with these and you think, oh yeah, I love C to D4 to B minor, again, simply just take the chord, drag him in, and you got it. But what I probably prefer is the circle of fifths. Now, this is just at the top as well, just we can switch between them. What we can do with this is you've got the Roman numeral of the chords. So say you're collaborating with another artist or you're in a band rehearsal and they say it's a 1-4-5 progression. You can actually see and hear how that 1-4-5 would sound. And likewise, now, you know we said we were working in, all of these work really well together. Now, say we were working in a different key, because I've got C as chord 1. If you want to hear how it sounds in a minor key, say we chose C minor, shall we? So you can see we've got C minor here. If I right click on this chord and go to assign pad and use as origin, can you see now I've got C minor as chord 1? And there's my 1-4-5 or 1-3. And as long as you're sticking in this area with these chords, you're going to write a song, you can chuck anything in here, so they're going to work together. So I won't play that because I don't want to take too much time, but that's the chord assistant, and I think that's really cool, not only for creating music but also training your ear to hear what a chord progression will sound like, and also to see what chords are related in different keys. So don't forget, with this one, if we went to G, we wanted that to be our key, you go to assign to as origin. Now we're in G, the key of G. Okay, so that's chord assistant. I think that's a really cool tool. Now, moving on really quickly, I want to look at what else you can do with these pads. Now, you see you've got here piano player and playing chords. I'm going to explain this further, but you can get to this menu here, but I want to look at it under this E. So I'm going to click edit for this E, and can you see you've got them here? That's the voicings I was talking about earlier. So if you want to voice your chords for piano or guitar, you can actually, it might be worth just touching on this. So if I play a C, can you see how a C looks from a piano player, a basic C chord? If I go to a guitar player, can you see that's voiced slightly differently? So that's a great way of stacking chords, the same chord together, and actually making it sound really nice together rather than everything the same. Okay, so I'm going to go back to that E, sorry. So rather than looking at all of these really quick, we've got piano player and guitar player. Now, each one of these will have its own chord voicing style as well. So that will change the sound as you hear it as well. So we've got guitar player. Can you see here we've got triads, which is a 3-note chord. We've got triads and a 4-note chord. We've got modern jazz, and that changes though when we go to piano player. So you can actually change the style of the chord voicing. But what I really want to go quickly onto is this. You see where it says playing chord here? The playing chord is that you play one note, or you hit a chord pad and it will play the note and ring on for as long as you keep your hand on it. Now, we've got also patterns. There's a couple of things we can do here, but I want to look at patterns today. Can you see here, as soon as I went to pattern, import MIDI came up. I can click on this, and it's using the same MIDI information that you can get in Media Bay, but in Media Bay you get it with the sound. But at the moment this is highlighted on strings, classical, and movie ballad. There's no reason for me to change that, so I'm just going to double click on it. Now, instead of playing chords now and sustaining through, can you see now that's playing a loop for me? Well, it's playing the same chord, but it's arpeggiated it, or it's broken the chord, and it's playing the rhythmic pattern that was from the MIDI loop, which is cool. And it doesn't stop there, actually. It could be that, say you're someone sent you a project to edit, and there's a wicked violin part that they've done in MIDI, and you've thought that would be great with a synth, say. You can actually take the part, and I'll show you. Let's create something really quickly. I've got bar 1 highlighted because I've got an editable region now, and I'm just going to double click and get the piano roll. Sorry if I'm moving quite quickly through this, but if you want to see how the piano roll or the MIDI editor works in Cubase, check out my last video. I think it was about a week ago. Okay, so I've got the piano roll, and what I'm going to do, this is going to sound absolutely horrendous, so let me play you this. But what I'm not doing, I'm not going to use that melodic, those steps. I'm only using this as my rhythm, so that's the rhythm I'm going to use. So if someone had sent you that and said this is a cool string part or bass part, can you make it into a synth or anything at all? You can take the part that they've sent you, or the part you've created in another instrument, and simply left click on it, drag it over, and you see as soon as I left clicked on it, can you see it says drop MIDI part? Drop it in there, and now when I play a note, sorry, hand slipped off the key. It's actually taking that rhythm that I made, and it's using it with the chord pads that we had here, which is great. Oh, how have I clicked on it? So that's another way of creating. So you say you had a piano part who was doing the block chords in track 1. You created a synth for a stringed instrument, and you wanted it to do a pattern. You can use the same chords, but one playing the block chords because you've dragged them in, and then one doing the pattern, which would really help to layer stuff up. There's one other thing I want to look at really quickly, which is, again, when we've looked at effects or anything in Cubase, remember this preset button. So it's the thing that looks like a little box there. So if I click on that and go to load chord pad presets, what Cubase does, it gives you loads of presets for the chords already. So say I wanted to look at A major, so we got a major scale in the key of A. Double click on it, and can you see what it's done here? So we've got chord 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So say you were working on a song and someone said we've got to be in the key of A, you can use any of these in your chord progression, and it's going to sound great. And you can hit record and play these in using the single note on the piano, use the pattern editor to create it into patterns, or you can simply take the chord and drag it in like we did before. And because you've chosen that from this window here, oh sorry, not that window there, that's the chord assistant, from the presets, it's telling you we're in the key of A on all of these chords, and it shows you which major and minor chords in the scale work in the key of A, which is great. And you can take any key. It doesn't have to be the key of A, it can be the key of D, so D, E minor, and then you can take minor chords as well, which is great. And it even, I think, gives you pop songs and stuff like that, so you can even I'm sure it does somewhere. Yeah, well, have a look through. But yeah, it gives you all sorts of stuff to have a look at. So if you wanted to have a look through some more unusual progressions, they're all there. But I think that's really cool, very cool indeed. But don't forget, all of these work by dragging and dropping, but also if you want to play the piano, because someone asked in the comment, can you play the piano with chord pads and chord assistant? And you can, definitely. Remember though, I think the cool things with this is once you've got some cool ideas going, I love this chord assistant. This circle of fifths is really useful. Don't forget, right click, assign to origin, changes the key. You've got your Roman numerals for the chords you're using. And then that pattern mode, I think. We'll look at the other stuff as well at some point, but I think the chord assistant, the chord pads, you're doing the different voicings, the chord assistant, and then also the pattern mode is really cool. Try that, loading up some MIDI, different MIDI rhythms is really cool. And then I think the preset button as well. Some of those are really cool, certainly worth looking at. And anything you do, because you're using it all the time, you'll get used to what major and minor chords go together. So not only are you learning theory, but you're doing it in a practical way rather than just learning it on a piece of paper. You're learning that chord 1 in D going to chord 2 will be minor. So we got major, minor, minor, and then chord 3 will be minor, which is really cool. So you're learning music theory as you're having fun and creating music. Anyway, good luck.